It was a time when Rome stood as the center of the world, glorious, proud and mad. Beneath the marble columns and gold-lined villas, behind the statues of emperors and gods, a darker truth lay buried. A truth not carved in stone, but whispered in shadows and passed down with shivers in history's breath. This is not a tale of war or conquest, but of obsession, of love twisted into cruelty, and power without conscience. A story so strange, so disturbing, that even the mad emperors who came after would speak of it in hushed tones. This is the story of the boy named Sporus, and the emperor who destroyed him. Rome, AD 65. The imperial palace was unnervingly quiet. Inside its vast stone halls, velvet drapes hung like shadows. The scent of roses still lingered. Poppaea Sabina had adored them, but they now mixed with something else. The stale sting of regret, the cold air of death. Poppaea Sabina was dead. Some said illness, others whispered rumors. But those closest to the emperor knew the truth. In a fit of rage, Nero had struck her. She was pregnant at the time, one blow. Just one, and she collapsed. She would never rise again. Nero had not meant to kill her, so he told himself. But he had, and her death hollowed something in him. His grief did not look like mourning. It looked like madness in disguise. He kept her body embalmed, laid out in white and gold, surrounded by flowers. He wept beside it night after night, like a widower who could not let go. But Nero was no ordinary man. He was not looking to forget her. He was looking to bring her back. Some weeks later, as Nero roamed the halls of his palace in melancholy despair, a servant brought him news. A whisper, a suggestion. A boy, young, quiet, and strangely beautiful, had been spotted in the slave quarters. His name, Sporus. No one knows where Sporus came from. He was likely the child of a noble house that had fallen, or perhaps born to slaves and sold into palace life. But one thing was clear. He bore an uncanny resemblance to the Empress Poppaea. The shape of his face, his large eyes, the way he moved with silent grace. Nero summoned him. Sporus stood trembling before the emperor. Just a boy of 13 or 14. He did not understand why he had been called. He did not yet know he was no longer a person in Nero's eyes, but a shadow, a replacement. The emperor studied him, walked around him like an artist appraising a sculpture. Then, slowly, he reached out and touched the boy's cheek. "You remind me of someone," he whispered. In that moment, a decision began to form inside Nero's mind. It was not a sane one. It was not rational. But power has a way of warping the mind, especially when it knows no limits. If Poppaea could not return from the grave, he would make her return. That night, Nero summoned his inner circle, his physician, his chamberlain, his eunuchs. He issued the command with no emotion, as if he were ordering a wine list. Prepare the boy. They understood. They had seen his madness before. No one objected. No one dared. The next day, Sporus was taken from his quarters and locked away. He screamed, he fought. But his fate was already sealed. He would never be the same again. There is no delicate way to tell what happened. Sporus was castrated, violently, irreversibly. He was forced under restraint. The surgery, if one could call it that, was crude and agonizing. He cried for hours, for days, and no one came to comfort him. He did not know why this had happened. He only knew that something sacred had been taken from him, something he could never get back. And when it was over, they clothed him in fine silk, dressed him in jewels, called him Sabina. The guards would not look him in the eye. Not long after, the citizens of Rome were called to witness a new spectacle. The emperor, resplendent in gold, emerged into the public square. By his side walked a veiled figure in bridal robes. The figure moved slowly as if in pain. Flowers were strewn on the ground. Trumpets played a somber tune. The crowd murmured, "Was it a new wife? A foreign princess?" It was the boy, Sporus. In full view of the Roman elite, Nero married him. He placed a ring on the boy's finger, lifted the veil, kissed him, and whispered, "Sabina." Some cheered. Some stared in horror. Others laughed nervously. Unsure if it was theater or madness, none dared protest. In Rome, love and horror walked hand in hand. After the ceremony, Sporus was installed in the palace chambers once reserved for the empress. He had attendants, gowns, perfumes. He was given the finest food, the softest bed, but none of it was his choice. He was not a bride. He was a prisoner wrapped in silk. Nero paraded him through the city like a trophy. He took him to public banquets and private orgies. He forced him to perform as a woman, to smile, to sing. Sporus did not smile. He did not sing, but Nero did not care. "You are my Poppaea," he would whisper at night. The Roman Senate knew. Everyone knew. But what was there to say? Rome was rotting from the inside out. Nero's cruelties were already infamous. His executions, his tortures, his theater of terror. The senators had long since learned that silence was survival. So they raised their goblets, they toasted the emperor and his wife. And when Sporus passed by in his golden gown, they bowed their heads and pretended not to see the tears on his cheeks. News spread beyond the capital. In the eastern provinces, nobles whispered that Rome had finally lost its mind. In Greece, philosophers debated whether Nero had gone insane, or if he was acting out some distorted vision of beauty and mourning. In secret, poets wrote cruel verses. They called Sporus the Queen of Rome. They mocked the emperor's bride as a ghost wrapped in flesh. But no one dared speak those words aloud. Nero's reach was long, and his wrath was longer. As the years went on, the Senate declared Nero a public enemy. As Nero fled the city with only a handful of loyalists, guess who followed him? Sporus, still in his silks, still called Sabina, still wearing the ring. Even in exile, Nero could not part with his illusion. The boy had become the emperor's final comfort, his final sin, but the end was near. He was not born a queen. He was not born to be loved by an emperor. He was born a child, a boy, innocent, vulnerable, human, but to Nero, he was a memory made flesh. And that made him doomed. In part 2, we'll follow Sporus beyond Nero, into the hands of new rulers, and ultimately toward a fate that would be as tragic as the one that began this nightmare. History remembers emperors, but sometimes it forgets the ones who were broken by them. Not this time.